Hey guys, welcome back to another Let Me Explain video. So today I'm going to be doing something a little different. Usually you'll find me on these Let Me Explain videos kind of defending films that are maybe unfairly criticized in my opinion. Whereas today I'm going to be actually targeting a film that I think is sort of overrated. And that film is Spider-Man No Way Home. So before you start destroying me in the comments section, let me clarify. I like the film. I enjoyed Spider-Man No Way Home when I saw it in the cinemas. I think it's a good film. It's undoubtedly a critical and box office success. It was massive at the box office in particular. So look, I know I'm an outlier in this regard, but just like hold on, hear me out. Let me explain where I'm coming from exactly, in terms of why I think it's overrated. But before I do that, I will mention the things that I like about the film. You know, obviously starting off with Peter Parker, the main Peter, he has an emotional story in this film that I think is very much needed, particularly that he hadn't gone through too much to this point, particularly this whole time in the MCU. So it was nice to see him actually have an emotional story from start to finish. I think the handling of Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man in the films was fantastic. From a useful standpoint, in terms of they weren't just thrown in for nostalgia, even though they are massive nostalgia bait, they were actually utilized in a way to further Tom Holland's Peter's story, but also even further their stories a little bit. And I think in particular, Andrew Garfield got some really awesome redemption, not just for his character, but even somewhat for his movies, which were kind of looked upon as not as great as Tom Holland's films or definitely Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man films. With that said, despite liking the film, just something didn't sit right with me when I came out of the cinema, and also after the few times that I've watched it since. There was something that just bothered me about it that I couldn't quite put my finger on until now. And so I'm going to break that down for you now, and it really comes down to one phrase in particular. And that one phrase is standing on the shoulders of giants. When I thought of this phrase, it really hit the nail on the head for me in terms of how I felt about this film. And you know, standing on the shoulders of giants, what does that mean as a phrase? It means standing on top of something that's already been built or achieved in order to achieve your own greatness. And so in Spider-Man No Way Home, we obviously have the heroes and villains appearing from the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man films and the Andrew Garfield films to come together in this film to build one whole story. And so if you want to look at that as the foundation, and then they use that to then build on some greater aspects of that and try and make their own story out of it to make a more kind of grander story that encompasses basically all three of these franchises. And whilst this is not an inherently bad thing to do, you know, I just think it was done in a way, and the praise that this film got, I feel like is almost just misdirected, in that people who enjoyed the film really can't see how much of that they're enjoying is based on the previous success of past Spider-Man films. And we're obviously in an age now where many films, superhero films, sci-fi films, whatever, rely so much on the predecessors for nostalgia bait and to essentially stand on the shoulders of giants to promote themselves. This is not a new trend by any means, and Spider-Man No Way Home was not the first and will not be the last to do it. And so I'm going to run through a few key moments and scenes from this film to illustrate to you exactly what I mean when I say that this film is overrated and also that it stands on the shoulders of giants. The first aspect is the use of iconic dialogue. So this film really loves using some of the famous dialogue from the previous Spider-Man films. And for example, they use the line from Doc Ock in Spider-Man 2 where he says, "The power of the sun in the palm of my hand." They use it there in that scene because it's known. Otherwise, there's no way the writers of this film would have come up with a line like that. It's simply, they just wanted to reuse it for pure nostalgia bait. It doesn't feel exactly right in that moment. And I think this is even more of the case with the Green Goblin's character when he's locked up in that glass case and then he basically quotes the line, you know, "I'm something of a scientist myself." That was even more just kind of like so unnecessary. I get he's trying to say to Peter that, you know, he can help out, but it's just such a cheap use of something that was so iconic and so great, and they're just trying to really steal it for their own use here and make it sound like a great line for themselves. But I guess they know that the audience knows these lines, and that's what just bugs me even more, is that it's just a really cheap use of it. And the thing that bugged me particularly about these lines with the Green Goblin and Doc Ock is that they're also used for laughs almost with this audience, you know, whereas they weren't used for laughs in the original films. They were serious lines and they were great lines, but now they're made to actually just get a laugh out of the audience. It just cheapens it so much and it pisses me off, but it's all they could do. They're not capable of better than that. And so all they could do was just take these great characters, these these giants and just reduce them to basically a joke for these modern audiences. And this is a problem throughout all of modern Marvel films, that they don't know how to respect the past. Whenever they do bring it in, they always have to reduce it to a joke, and it's just a massive shame. Even the line by MJ, which is a riff on the "with great power comes great responsibility" line from Uncle Ben. One, the fact that Aunt May is saying it to me is blasphemous, but two, it just feels like, why now is she saying it at this moment? Why is it just before she dies, basically, is she saying this? Like, it doesn't, why has she never said it to this point? And the reason is that she is not in her character. She doesn't have that kind of mindset about things. She's not wise as Uncle Ben. This is meant to be Uncle Ben's line. And the fact that they gave it to her, to me, is blasphemous. And yeah, it's just being used in this cheap way because people know it from the previous films. And we all know and love this line, and the filmmakers know this, and they know that this line holds gravitas. And the reason it holds gravitas is because the original Uncle Ben who said it had gravitas. And so they're relying on the fact that the audience loves that Uncle Ben and has respect for him as like a wise old man. So they trying to apply that, copy paste it almost onto this Aunt May and try and get the same effect, and it just doesn't work the same like that. And I think this film is even emotionally manipulative at times, and in particular the one great scene, I actually love this scene, which is when Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man catches MJ, which is obviously a reference to his own Amazing Spider-Man 2 film where he didn't catch Gwen, and so this is sort of a redemption for him that he does finally get to catch her, and that is an emotional moment. But when I stepped back from it for a bit, it is sort of emotionally manipulative as well, because it's playing to our emotion for the Amazing Spider-Man 2, that scene in that film, and it's trying to tug on our heartstrings from that in order to get a feeling in this film. So it's just, it's really playing towards that, and it's really relying on these other aspects, these things that exist outside of this film to basically generate emotion. And this brings me to my final overarching point, which is that if you remove all the references and characters from the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man films and the Andrew Garfield Spider-Man films from this film, it's actually quite hollow. Like, there is not much there, particularly in the third act. Obviously, they structured the film, like, with the idea that these characters would be involved, but they are really relying on them to hold this film up, to prop it up, to make us care about anything else going on in the film. Tobey and Andrew Spider-Man in particular are really relied upon in this film to draw emotion out of it, to really make us feel something for what's going on. If you don't have their involvement, there's a lot of emotional beats that don't work. If you swap them for any other Spider-Man or any other characters, whatever, it just would not work. And so, yeah, it's just another example of just how much it relies on the past to really prop itself up. And so I say all this not to really criticize Spider-Man No Way Home, because I actually like the film. I think it's a good film. It's not as good as I wanted it to be, but I think it is good, and it has some decent arcs throughout the film. But I just want to, let's set the record straight. Like, it's just not that great. It's just, it has issues where it really relies on the work of previous geniuses, basically previous giants, to prop itself up and to make itself shine. And it really just, I feel like it really takes that praise and like for itself, like as if it's so amazing what it was able to come up with, but really it relies so much on the past. And I know this is probably an unpopular opinion, everything that I've said so far. I know maybe a lot of people aren't going to relate to me with everything I'm saying, but like, just if I break it down for you as simply as this, if you take the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man movies and you look at them as they are, what are they relying on? Nothing. They're relying on generating their own greatness, being great in their own right, writing great dialogue, writing great action scenes, all these great moments. They have the comic books to source from. All these superhero films do, but those films, carved out their own greatness. What is Spider-Man No Way Home doing? It's not even bothering really much with the comics, but it's instead focusing on these previous films and saying, those were great. Why don't we just use that in ours? And then people will love that. They love that great part, so it will still be great here. And then we'll just add this little icing on top there, and people will just love it even more. That's really as simply as what's going on here. It's it's that superficial, basically. It's not more deep than that. And so that is my main gripe with this film overall. Anyways, that's all I really wanted to say on this. Spider-Man No Way Home, at the end of the day, is a good film. If you like it, I've got no problem with you. I just think it's overrated. I don't think it's great. I just think it's good. And yeah, that's all I really wanted to say for now. So thank you for watching this Let Me Explain video. I hope you enjoyed it. Please post your comments in the comment section below, whether you agree or disagree. I want to hear it all. If you like this video, please give it a like. And if you're enjoying my content, please subscribe. So anyways, we'll talk to you next time, guys. Bye.